So my previous video on African masks has attracted quite some interesting comments, and today I am going to respond to one of those questions. And one of you by the name of Lamore Visuals wrote this comment, and he said, "Hi, thank you for sharing with us this great story. As a collector, what do you recommend to keep my sculpture smelling good and insect free as well?" This is a very interesting question, and I think I'm going to have a very interesting time responding to this. So there are three key considerations that I would recommend that should enable you to achieve what you want, which is sculptures that are looking good, that are insect free, and probably smells good too. And the reason I'm saying probably is because a lot of times artworks aren't supposed to have any smells whatsoever. Yeah, well, because technically I don't believe that artworks, sculptures are supposed to smell at all, right? But let's dive right into the three considerations. So first, let's talk about materials. Now, different sculptures or artworks can be made out of different forms of material. Sometimes is one consistent kind of material. Sometimes it's a mixture of different kinds of materials. You know, you could have artworks made out of bones, out of antlers, horns, ivory, wood, and epoxy, and even some metals. You know, copper is a pretty common metal used for artworks, and then of course bronze and silver and gold and platinum, you know. So these artworks come from different cultures and come in different forms. So the materials out of which a sculpture is made will determine what you need to do to keep it clean. And then there would be certain materials that are easier to get infestations of insects, and there are some that insects probably won't be interested in. For example, if I had a bronze mask, chances are I probably won't have any insects wanting anything to do with my bronze mask, except maybe for a spider that might be looking for, you know, new spaces to make its nests or lay eggs or all those kinds of stuff. But naturally that should not happen, right? So in that previous video I had this piece with me, and you know, this is wood, this is mahogany, right? And it is pretty solid, you know, so it's in a very good state, and I've had this for a number of years. I think I've had this for 5 or 6 years, maybe 6 years now. So this is made out of wood, and this is made out of epoxy, right? And it's all solid. Now because this is made out of wood, I ensure that I have it hanging on the wall all the time. I technically never have to keep it on the floor, though the floors are all treated and all, but I still hang it up. And that's where I can keep the wood away from termites, because then irrespective of how strong your wood can be, you would not want to expose it to termites. So and then if I wanted to clean this mask, I would use you know, soft cotton materials or a soft brush. But one thing I would not want to do to the wood is wash it with water. That may not go so well. The epoxy might survive, you know, light scrubbing or washing, but I don't think it's very good for the wood, and that's something you should definitely not do. So when you recognize what materials your artworks are made of, then it can help you decide, you know, how you want to store them, whether you want them hanging up on the walls, whether you want to set them up maybe on a centerpiece on a table, whether you want to put them in a case, you know, in a glass case, or whether you want to store it away in a safe, depending on how valuable it is, and should you ever have to clean it. And this is very important if you're worried about smells. Then, you know, you don't have to wash some of these materials. If it's something made out of ivory and you're washing it, okay, that may be just fine. Or if it's made out of epoxy and you're washing it, that's fine. But then if it's made out of metal, you don't want to wash it all the time. And if it's made out of wood, you don't want to wash it all the time. And if you're able to store these materials appropriately, they won't gather so much dust, and naturally they will not require frequent cleaning and contact. That's something you don't want to be doing with your artworks, making contact with them all the time. So first, be aware of what materials they are, and that will determine a bunch of other stuff. Now, number 2, your environment. And this is equally as important as the first, because a recognition of what materials your artworks are made of should help you decide better how and where you want to store them. You don't want to have your sculptures piled up in a basement where you might have a mold infestation, or where you have some dampness. You want to store them in a dry place. You want to store them in a place where they are safe, where they are not directly in contact with the elements, depending on who has made them. So I'm almost very certain that a lot of the sculptures that are made today are not designed to withstand the elements and to face, lots of very tough conditions, but are rather made for aesthetic purposes. And so you'd want to be careful where you store your artifacts, because then if you're in a place where they collect mold or they have different fungi growing on them, then you're going to have a smell problem, right? And then you're going to have a dampness problem. And if it's made out of wood, you would not want to have the wood grow soft and have all the fungi digest your wood and definitely destroy the artwork. And if it's made out of bones or any other organic stuff, you don't want to have microbes building colonies on them. That would definitely not be helping in the long run. Artifacts, artworks, sculptures are supposed to last for generations, and we have to be super careful about the environment where we store them. And number 3, let's talk about your habits and your behaviors. How do you treat some of these sculptures, right? Do you lend them out to friends? Do you let people touch them? We see this a lot in movies, and I know that a lot of persons also practice it. When you have artworks that are special, you ensure they are not open for the public to view and touch and treat as they like. And definitely you can lend those out to people. You can set them up in places where they can be seen, and ensure that other persons who want to make contact maybe have to wear gloves or have to dust their hands with powder and all that, and that way you don't have smudges and all sorts of body fluids on those masks, because all those can invite infestation of microbes that would build colonies, and from there anything is possible, right? So when you watch your own behavior towards your masks, how you treat them, and then how the people who have access to them also treat them, and then you're careful about the environment where you store them, I think that to a very large extent would ensure that you have all of your art pieces in very good state. And remember, choose dryness over dampness, choose less contact over a lot of contact, and just be super careful around them. And if you ever have to clean them, well, be sure you understand what materials your artworks are made of, and that way you can clean them the right way. And finally, a super tip for everyone who gets to see this video up to this point. Now, if the artwork in question is an African piece of art, everything I've said above will depend on one single thing, and that is, what is the purpose of the sculpture or the artwork that you have? Is it for religious purposes? Is it part of the cosmology of the people? Is it part of the spirituality of the people? Or is it just something that is made for aesthetics? Now, if the piece of mask or the piece of sculpture artwork is basically for aesthetics, then you have nothing to worry about. You can treat it as you like. And if for any reasons it has religious purposes and it has been activated, so maybe you can buy a piece maybe straight from the craftsman and they've assured you that it has never been used, right? And it's never been activated. You take it to your home, well, then that's fine. But if it's been used for any religious activities, then you might want to be very careful how you treat it, how you handle it, where you keep it, and whether you can or cannot wash it, right? If it's been deified and it has a presence, then you might want to have a conversation with whatever you have invited into that artifact, because some of them may not want whatever it is you're going to do to the mask, and you don't want to have angry spirits in your home. And that's something you can take to the bank. And thank you very much if you've seen this video up to this point. It really warms my heart to know that I have people who spend their time to watch, my videos from top to finish. If you ever made it to this point, please leave a comment in the section and tell me, yeah, I made it to the end, and I'll probably say something nice to you. So thank you very much for watching, and if it's your first time on the channel, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification button so that you know every time we make new videos. And leave comments, ask questions, let's talk in the comment section, and feel free to connect on social media or connect everywhere else. Everything is in the descriptions. Do well to check them out, and I'd look forward to engaging with you in future videos.